Know anything about this? Uptime Service, Cornell Implements advertising?
Uptime Service? No. What's it all about?
Uptime Service includes everything necessary to give you complete assurance of full capacity performance all season long. If we bring in a tractor or implement, they'll clean it, check it, and inspect it, and repair parts or any components that need repair. And they'll replace any parts that are likely to fail within the coming season. They'll make any necessary adjustments and lubricate it.
I wonder what kind of money they're talking about.
I don't know, but maybe we ought to look into it, especially for that four-wheeler of ours.
Maybe so, during the off-season.
We sure can't afford to have that four-wheeler down, if there's any way to avoid it.
You invest in a four-wheel drive to get more productivity. You gain big during its uptime. By the same token, if it has downtime at any crucial period, you lose a lot of productivity. If your tractor stops, your productivity stops. These international four-wheelers are engineered to give you thousands of hours of trouble-free uptime, provided they're properly maintained by the programs prescribed in your operator's manual. It's your reliable guide to profitable uptime. On a four-wheel drive tractor, the articulating points are critical from a lubrication standpoint. Every day you use the tractor, make sure you lubricate all the articulating points: U-joints, slip yokes, hinges, and links. Be sure you thoroughly flush out all the old grease and dirt to keep wear at an absolute minimum. Lubricate all the points shown in the manual at the prescribed intervals with the specified IH lubricants. Proper lubrication when called for is one of the best ways to assure continued uptime. For optimal clutch performance, check the pedal for the specified free movement every 250 hours, even more often under severe conditions. This is very important on these big four-wheelers because of the tremendous power involved. Make a daily check of the fluid level in the front drive unit. Do not overfill, or you may overheat the drivetrain. When need be, bring it up to the center of the oil level sight glass. Check the fluid level in the rear drive unit periodically. Change the fluid in both drive units without fail every 1,000 hours or once a year, whichever comes first, because it eventually becomes contaminated with water due to condensation. When you add or change hydraulic fluid, make sure it's IH Hytran. It's been engineered specifically for international tractors. Will-fit fluids may lead to failure. To assure satisfactory operation, change the hydraulic filter element at the first 10 hours of operation, the first 100 hours, and every 250 hours thereafter. Do not try to use will-fit cartridges. They may be either too porous or too restrictive to protect the system, or may not otherwise meet specifications. Whenever you change the filter element, also clean the screen in the filter bypass valve. And do not try to clean a hydraulic filter or use it beyond the prescribed period, or you may have expensive trouble. Check the engine oil daily before starting the engine. Never let it get below the add mark, and never fill it above the full mark. Overfilling can cause excessive heat and oil consumption. Change the oil every 100 hours. For maximum protection and engine life, use IH #1 engine oil. It's been custom designed for our international diesel engines. And be sure you put in oil of the proper viscosity for the expected ambient temperatures. To ensure optimal engine life, change the engine oil filters at the first 100 hours of operation and every 200 hours from then on. Prime the turbocharger after installing a new oil filter element when the engine has been idle for 1 month or more, or after installation of a new or rebuilt turbocharger. To prime the turbocharger, proceed as follows. Set the engine speed control lever in the shut-off position. Turn the key switch to the start position and crank the engine until the engine oil pressure builds up, or up to a maximum of 30 seconds. Wait 1 minute, then advance the engine speed control lever slightly and start the engine. As soon as the engine starts, position the speed control lever to obtain approximately 1,000 engine RPM. Allow the engine to operate at this speed for at least 2 minutes before going to a higher speed or load. Should the engine be killed when operating under load, immediately restart the engine to prevent overheating of turbocharger parts caused when the flow of oil for cooling and lubrication is stopped. Water in the fuel would mean almost certain trouble in the injection pump. So, before starting the engine each day, drain any water and sediment out of the bottom of the tank. Close the valve only when clean fuel appears. If your engine starts missing, or you notice an evident loss of power, or it's hard to start, change the primary fuel filter and use only the specified IH filters. Others may fail to protect the injection pump. If the problem persists, change the final filter also. When changing any fuel filter, exercise extreme care and cleanliness. If you let any contamination get into the filter before or during installation, you may cause an injection pump failure. After you've installed a fuel filter, be sure you vent the system using the procedure described in your manual. You have to get all the air out of the system before the engine will start and run properly. Before you start the day's work, see if dirt and chaff are clogging the front screen, the oil cooler, the air conditioner condenser, the radiator. When necessary, clean them with forced air or water. Then watch the temperature gauge while you work to see if they're clogging up again. Your coolant level tell light is for monitoring the system while you work. It's not to be used as a substitute for your daily radiator check. Before you start the engine, check the coolant level in the radiator. Be sure you tighten the cap all the way, clear to the stop. A pressure cooling system won't seal properly if the radiator cap and the connections from the radiator to the coolant recovery reservoir are not airtight. The level in the recovery reservoir should always be between the two marks. Check this every time you check the radiator. Examine the hoses occasionally for cracks and for tightness. Likewise with the belts. Inspect all of them occasionally for frayed edges, cracks, or grease. If one belt needs replacing, always put on a matched set. Check all the belts for proper tension periodically and make adjustments as required. With new belts or on a new tractor, check the tension every 10 hours. After the tension stabilizes, recheck it every 50 hours. The cooling system filter conditioner provides extra protection against sleeve erosion, rust, and the formation of deposits. Replace the element after the first 100 hours of operation, then after every 400 hours. Anytime your engine's running and the air cleaner service tell light comes on, shut off the engine and clean the primary air filter. The fastest, most efficient way to clean it is with this tool, available from your IH dealer. Anytime a primary element doesn't respond to cleaning per the testing procedure in your manual, put in a new one. In any event, replace it after every 10 cleanings or once a year, whichever comes first. When the prescribed service test shows the secondary element to be dirty, do not try to clean it. Put in a new one. To maintain maximum engine protection, replace it once a year, no matter what. Whenever you clean or replace an air filter element, Check the tightness of the hose clamps and the condition of the hoses. If they show any signs of deterioration, replace them immediately. Check the dust unloader after every 100 hours of operation, always with the engine stopped. Examine the lip seal and the condition of the rubber. If anything's wrong, replace it, making sure that the flat side is in line with the fan blast, not broadside to it. Whenever you're about to start the engine, check the charge of the batteries. With the key in the run position, observe your voltmeter. If the indicator's in this green area, the batteries are sufficiently charged. If it's in the shaded green area, at least one of them is undercharged. The maintenance-free batteries are completely sealed, except for a small vent hole. You never need to add water to them. But be sure you keep them clean, so current can't short across from one terminal to the other. And keep the vent hole free of obstruction. Remove the battery cables periodically, making sure you remove the ground cable first. Clean the posts and clamps, and give them a light coat of petroleum jelly. When you reinstall them, be sure you put the ground cable on last, and keep the clamps torqued between 10 and 15 foot-pounds. To ensure a full flow of fresh air, clean the two air intake filters as often as operating conditions require. The quickest, most effective way is with the same element cleaning tool used on engine air cleaner elements. The evaporator drain tubes should be dripping water in humid weather. If not, check for clogging. The valves prevent dust from being drawn up into the evaporator, so be sure they're not left off. Diligent maintenance of your four-wheeler's various operating systems and sticking to the schedule set forth in your operator's manual will repay your efforts many times over. Routine maintenance on your part, plus a yearly uptime service check by your IH dealer's skilled technicians, is how to get the most uptime your four-wheeler is capable of delivering. And obviously, the better you do your maintenance, the less uptime service you'll need done. Remember, it can be very costly to have your four-wheeler down at a critical time. So keep your international four-wheel drive in tip-top shape for those crucial periods when the conditions are just right to get in there and go all out.